Some conversations are very difficult to have, and there's a book that's going to help you get better at it. Hi, thanks for watching. Today is Tuesday, Reviewsday Tuesday, in which I attempt to do a book review. Now, I'm not the best at book reviews, so yeah, today I'm just going to tell you 5 things that I learned from this new book entitled How to Have Impossible Conversations by Peter Boghossian and James Lindsay. James Lindsay and Peter Boghossian have both written different books. This is the first book they've done together. They did work on something called the Grievance Studies a year ago. You may have heard about it in the news. It was pretty funny, if you remember that story. Now, just a little full disclosure, I'm a big fan of Peter Boghossian. His last book, I still have, A Manual for Creating Atheists. In fact, I got this, and I went and saw his talk, and he signed it to me afterwards. I don't know if you can see that, but it says, "To Tom," and "Thanks," and a big scribble. And it was that talk and this book, this last book that he did, that really encouraged me to want to make this YouTube channel. It was one of the things that I saw him using techniques to be more persuasive to discussing things with people that you may disagree with. And that's part of the goal of my channel, is I want to discuss things in a nuanced way and to try to be fair and maybe reach people where they're at and not just preach to the choir. So that's kind of the goal of my channel, and some of that stems from his last book. Now, this current book is called How to Have Impossible Conversations, and I just want to tell you about 5 things that I learned while reading this book. Let me just give you a quote about the book. How to Have Impossible Conversations contains 36 techniques drawn from the best, most effective research on applied epistemology, hostage and professional negotiations, cult exiting, subdisciplines of psychology, and more. And I hear that and I get really excited because that sounds awesome. It may not sound awesome to you, but to me, this sounds like, oh, this is going to be a great book. Now, if you don't know epistemology, that is determining whether or not a belief that you have is an opinion or if it's a justified belief. Right? And there's a difference between the two, and that's what epistemology tends to look at. And so that deals a lot in his last book and this book as well. But here's 5 things that I learned from this book. One thing in the book that was spelled out really well was introducing scales when you're talking to someone about a difficult conversation. If there is a belief that they have, you can ask them on a scale of 1 to 10 or 1 to 100, how sure are you about that? And that will really help you out, because if they say, oh, I'm 10 out of 10 on this belief, you're going to approach that a little bit differently if they said, 7 out of 10. That lets you know how much doubt they have going into the conversation. And then at the end of the conversation, you can find out if that shifted a little or not. It's something I never really considered, but it makes a whole lot of sense, and I look forward to talking about that with other people. Now, one thing that this book does, it does advise you to not read it all at once. It says, here's some basic techniques, here's some intermediate techniques, here's some advanced techniques. Once you learn a few basic techniques, try those out, work those out. Get better at those before you continue reading the book. Now, because I wanted to review the book, I read the whole thing, but I know that I will revisit these techniques and go back through them several times, because this is something I really want to work on for myself. Another thing, just a little side note, I have been telling people that I always read with these silly e-readers, and I always say that it's because I want to be more of a minimalist. I don't want to contribute to having all this stuff. And while that's true, I did get rid of hundreds of books because I'm trying to lighten my load. I have too much stuff around me. The main reason is I gotta wear these silly things now, and as I read out in public, I don't like wearing them. But with these e-readers, I can zoom in. I can put it on large print, and I'm not. I don't know. It works pretty well for me. So just a little side note there. But another technique from this book that I thought was really good is the goal of shifting the idea that you want to win in an argument to you want to understand the other person. And I think there's a lot going on with that. If you want to win, then the other person is going to have to lose, and that's going to make things really difficult. But if your goal is to really understand where the other person got their ideas from, then you can understand why you have a difference of opinion there. And it's also going to help you lead the discussion in a way that may challenge them. Whereas if you're just trying to win, you're not going to get there that way. So I thought that was very valuable. Another technique that I thought was really good that I know I don't use, which is if you think you've caused your partner to doubt one of their beliefs, then it's a good time to stop the conversation. That's something that I know that I don't do. But there's a lot of reasoning behind this. If you stop the conversation once they have a little doubt, then they go on themselves to think about those things. But if there's a little doubt and then you attack it and just go after it, they may become defensive and never think about those beliefs again. So that is another thing that I'm going to have to start using in my own life. I guess the fourth technique, or I don't know, thing I learned from this book, it's the unread library effect. Now, once I heard this, I thought, oh, this is one of these cognitive things that I should know about. Turns out, I don't know, they may have invented it. I know it's based on some old studies, but I don't know if they used that exact term before or not. It's not a widely used term. And I think this concept is so good, I may make an entire video just on this one topic. But what they have learned, the unread library effect, is people, once they are challenged on describing something, their confidence in it may decrease. So, for example, in this experiment that they did, they asked people, hey, how much do you know about a toilet, right? And then they had the people try to describe in detail how a toilet worked. And people, there was a lot that they didn't know about how a toilet worked. And then at the end, they asked them how confident they were that they understood how a toilet worked. And most of the time that would decrease. And so this is a technique that can be used by asking someone to describe something that they believe in detail, and they don't really know that much about it. And that is a way to introduce doubt into what they're thinking. And so the unread library effect was really an interesting concept. I'm glad that I got that from this book. And the last technique that I'm going to share with you today is the golden bridge. This makes so much sense. And what it is you want to make it really easy for someone to backtrack. You want to make it easy and not painful for someone to change their opinion on something. So the opposite of this would be if someone says, oh, you know what, you might be right about that. You don't want to say, of course I'm right about that. I've been telling you that for months, right? That's just going to backfire. That's no good. What you want to do is set up the conversation where you talk about where you've been wrong about something and where you've changed your mind, and that's totally cool and okay. And if someone says that they've changed their mind, you just can say cool or all right, right on, whatever. And I think that that's a really good concept. It's something that we need to be aware of. Now, I think that this book is fantastic. I cannot recommend it enough. It is not easy reading, and a lot of it is like a textbook, okay, where you got to go through it a couple of times, take breaks, and examine it. But I think that this is going to be really valuable for myself in having conversations about topics that are charged, if you will. So I can't recommend it enough. It's called How to Have Impossible Conversations. It's available now. I'll leave links in the description. I highly recommend it. Let me know what you think about some of these concepts in the comments. Peace.